And I'm John Yates, chairman of the committee. And I might say the last World War II veteran left in the legislature up here. And I learned later that I'm the last one in any legislature in the United States. So I'll try to hang around so that we don't have to report a zero here. But it's glad to have everybody. And we got two bills to take up on the agenda. And let's see, is Mr. Smyrie here? Or, hey, Calvin, what you hiding for? My boss tells me you're the dean of the house here. Well, I thought it meant you got extra pay or something, but I know better than that, don't I? Well, I can proudly say that
going back and forth every day.
That's good. I'm proud to say that I served with this gentleman a long time, and he should be called a dean. He is a first-class gentleman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
And we go down to Columbus occasionally on meetings down there, and he's always gracious to us down there because he kind of represents a place where I had two brothers in the Army at Fort Benning down there. It's a great fort.
Thank you.
And so he's bringing us House Bill 531.
What, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, and I'm glad that Representative Scott is here. She's one of the co-chairs of the committee, and what we're trying to do is provide coverage for those members that serve in the National Guard, and once they're called into duty, then they're able to have some job protection. What I've passed out to you is something that was just sent to me from Washington. Is part of the Southeast Division of the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Defense, and wanted me to know that in the bill where there's a portion that retains itself to other reserves of the armed forces, and the state does not have purview of that, and so they asked me to strike the language on page 18 and strike other reserve components of the armed services, because that pertains itself to the Army, Air Force, Coast Guard, Navy, and the state does not have jurisdiction. It only has jurisdiction of the National Guard and not other armed services. That would pertain itself, so they're asking me to strike that language.
So that's already been done in this?
No, it has not. I passed out the...
Oh, I see.
Did you get a... Okay. On line 18, I want to thank Representative Hitchens also for signing the bill, and Richard Smith as well. It's a bipartisan piece of legislation, because working in people that make us have a free nation is what we're trying to get accomplished here, just to provide protection that if somebody's in the National Guard and get called into duty by the Commander-in-Chief, they would be allowed to go back to their job. That's basically it. But it has to be National Guard only. It can't be any other. So we would have to strike that pertain itself to any other reserve component of the armed services of the United States, because we don't have authority nor oversight of the other components of the armed services.
So the bill as you have it here is the way you want it to?
No, the way we have it now.
With the exception of what you just said.
Right.
Okay.
You have the amendment that I'd like the committee. Okay. The committee so chooses to accept the amendment as written, as was sent to me by the Department of Defense.
Okay. First, before going any further, I want to introduce our committee aide, Jake Taylor, and then our legislative council, yep, is Blake Travis. So I just wanted y'all to know who we're dealing with here. You got a question?
I do, but I didn't push the button.
I did.
7.
Oh, excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong man. Go ahead.
It should be on.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is basically for those who serve in the Georgia National Guard. If they go out of, if they happen to be in a National Guard in the state of South Carolina in South Carolina, they live in Georgia, they work in Georgia, they're part of South Carolina, Alabama's National Guard. When they leave to go serve, they can come back to their job in Georgia.
That is correct.
Okay, good. Now, is that same reciprocity for
That's-
other states as well?
I'm tolling that with the people that I talked with, the Secretary of Defense said it would be reciprocal. It would go both ways.
So if someone from South Carolina...
Because South Carolina has passed, the other states have it would be a reciprocity clause because other states have passed it as well. Those states that have passed. South Carolina would be one that has passed it.
So other states have passed
Yes.
it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Governor Haley signed it last year, I'm told by the, I didn't know they monitor us, what we do down here at the state level, but when I got a call from Secretary of Defense about Assistant Secretary of Defense Office, the Southeastern region, and the legal counsel is holding the memo that they sent me a few days ago.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure that it's being done both ways for our citizens as well that serve out of state.
This is the one example. If you have a person working in Augusta, Georgia, but is in the South Carolina National Guard, and then without this bill, they have no protection in Georgia. With this bill, they would have protection both ways.
Okay, yeah, I understand that, Bill. Yeah. I guess my question was more if someone from South Carolina served in the Georgia National Guard, someone from North Augusta served in Georgia's National Guard, do they have the same going
Both,
back?
that's what my understanding.
Mr. Davenport, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Mr. Dean,
Yes.
thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. My first time.
My question is one of information, not questioning what's on this bill. The federal law protects Army, Navy, Marine. They do not protect reservists?
In my conversation with the gentleman on the phone from that division, that this bill is something that other southern states have passed to protect the National Guard only.
But does the federal not protect the National Guard?
If he didn't tell me that while I was on the phone.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Oh, excuse me, I didn't know.
It's my understanding, as whoever activates them is responsible for them. If they're activated under Title 10 and they go to work for the federal government, they are. If they're activated under state authority and they're working for the state, then it's the state's responsibility.
That is correct. Because my conversation with the gentleman, and I forget his name, Kirch, with the Assistant Secretary of Defense Office, he walked me through it today as it relates to National Guard only, and that's why they emailed me this language from them to that, so this will be applicable only to the National Guard. Well, Mr. Chairman, I thank you for allowing me to come.
I got
Okay.
one more.
Yes, okay.
Thank you, Representative Smiley. Just one point of clarification. This actually does clear up a gray area with respect to the National Guard for the state of Georgia, and it allows for the state of Georgia's National Guards to basically be protected in ways that they have not up to this bill being brought to the table.
You said it better than I could.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That's all the questions I have up here. Does anyone in the audience want to have a question or anything? Anyone? Thank you.
We understand and appreciate you presenting that to protect guardsmen who may be residents of South Carolina or another neighboring state. I think that's a great initiative.
Veterans, Who's that? That back there?
Mr. Chairman, at this proper time, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, is anybody from the Veterans Affairs, you got any questions about anything? Okay. Who wants to make a motion? Right. Okay, go ahead.
Move that we do pass.
Second? Yes. Any other?
Excuse me, with the amendment, with the amendment. With the amendment.
Can we get clarification on exactly how the amendment should read? The way I'm reading it, this note would strike.
Line 18,
Yeah,
all after guard.
yeah, except for Georgia National Guard, so we can turn it to.
All after guard and stop at United States.
After guard,
And stop at
or
United
a member of any other reserve component of the United States, strike, and pick back up, and who is called, or who has been called to state-sponsored active duty as part of the National Guard of another state by that state's governor. And then it picks back up, and who because of on line 19. So you have one strike and one insert.
He got that. He's got that. Okay.
You got a strike on line 18, and you got an insert on line 21. And on line 21, after 38.2-6.1, or who has been called to state-sponsored active duty as part of the National Guard of another state by the state's governor, and then you pick back up, and who because of, et cetera, et cetera. So you have a strike on line 18 and an add on line 21.
Do we have a motion that it do pass by substitute?
The motion that it do pass by substitute.
You made it. Is there a second? Yes, sir. Okay. All in favor, vote aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, it does pass.
Thank you, Mr. James. I want to tell you publicly how much I appreciate your service and your dedication to the armed services. I'm from a military family. My father served for 26 years as a Specialist 6 and retired as a Chief Warrant Officer. And my grandfather served 32 years as a Master Sergeant in the Old 24 Infantry Division at Fort Benning. And I've just been a military. In fact, I finished school over in Germany because my father was stationed there. But I come from a military family. I grew up on so many military installations, and I'm just awed when I'm in your presence. And I thank you for your service to our country. It's people like you. We got a free nation.
Well, I appreciate it very much. And during the war, my father was already dead by the time the war came along, and I was out in California when Pearl Harbor was struck, but I'm originally from Spalding County, Georgia, where I live now. And there was 5 boys in my family, and all 5 served in the Army. There's 4 of us in World War II. My mother was a 4-star Gold Star mother. She was a widow woman, and at the end of the war, I had 2 brothers in the prisoners' war, and I was in a hospital with infectious hepatitis. It was so many people had it over in Europe. There's a military secret. It's all based on your diet, I guess, and your filthy conditions you had to live in the field, you know. So I just think it's a blessing, and I look back on it. I wouldn't trade my military service for anything, and I think that's what's wrong with the country sometimes is we have people serving high office who never served in the military, and I just think it's a special thing about the military.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You had a question? Yes. No? That clears all of it? Anybody else got anything to say? Yep. Okay. Oh, we'll move on to the next bill then. It's House Bill 913. And I take it people, well, there's a lady already to speak on it. And identify yourself and...
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm State Representative Sandra G. Scott from Clayton and Henry County, and I am a veteran of the United States Army. I've come to you here today with House Bill 913. What House Bill 913 is asking for a female veterans coordinator for veteran services to provide for such women veterans programs. This position is related to the need of a women's veteran program and coordinator. It's the public relations aspect of it, getting the word out to women veterans that they have earned benefits because of their military services. The traditional information and venues such as service organizations typically do not mirror the demographic of younger female veterans, although it is starting to change in some locations. Younger women are more likely to be involved in child rearing and employment activities. Another reason that we need this position is because of the major issues related to women veterans. To do with military sexual trauma, which is called MST, which is a major issue, a problem area confronting women's veterans in our nation and state. While most MSTs are related to female veterans, there are cases and roles where we have men that have been traumatized with sexual trauma. Issues are related to the same process in which the women's program will serve those men that have been traumatized with sexual issues. It has been repeatedly observed when these issues are being addressed, it is best to do so with a trained counselor of the same sex. Traditionally, we know that the VA have been oriented toward high number of male veterans. We know that the Army really was based on males, and most of the programs that we have are male-oriented. So we are seeking, but because women, we are different. We are different than men. Our body structure and our bodies are different than men. We feel that we need this women's veteran coordinator position to help the women to better understand the services and benefits that relate to their health care needs and associated with the military. I could say that as a woman veteran, while in the military, your body and you go through a lot of different things that men can't even begin to recognize or to understand. And once you're out, and the fact that women have been into the war zone, they have kids, they have issues that are totally different from what men have. And so therefore they need to be able to have a woman coordinator that they can go to and speak with. Now, this is something that comes down from the federal government, and we have a lot of states have taken on and created a women's coordinator position because they know that a lot of women really do not come forward. A lot of women don't even think or consider that they have the issues that they have, and they really don't know where to turn to. Yes, we go to the VA, but most times when we go to the VA, things are associated truly from a male perspective. So we're asking for a women's coordination position. So with that, I stand for questions.
When I first read this, I was just wondering really why it would be different. As I say, most of my association through my years at Ford Motor Company and also in the military was that the women wanted to be kind of treated the same. But is this because of the physical body of a woman is different? Is that the main thing you're talking about?
Well, yes, our physical body makeup is different from a man. We have different problems that men do not have. So I think that a women's coordinator would be good for women. And the MST that women are going through today, the sexual trauma, and they do not want to really deal with that with men.
I have a question.
Yes. First, Representative Scott, thank you for sponsoring House Bill 913, but I can speak from personal experience. I come from a military family as well. I have two brothers and one sister that Air Force veterans, and much of the information that my sister would get was provided by us because there was not a conduit that was conducive to women's issues and initiatives. And this is a gray area that I think this bill would significantly address in a way that we can't properly quantify. So I think this is timely, and this is something that would be very well utilized by the women veterans that have basically took the same oath of allegiance that we did to the God that we serve, to either give their life in service of this country, and this is a small thing to do in just to say thank you to the women that have stepped up to do just this. I think this would be a good initiative.
I have one other. Did you?
Or 15?
No. 15.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Representative Scott, I appreciate your efforts involved in this area, and but I guess on the other side of it, I see it as a separation, not a joining as one. You know, you have the rights to do all the things in the military the same. I understand that the woman's body is different than the men's, but I don't know that we need a separate law to make some of those things happen. I think it can be handled internally within the veterans instead of insisting that you're going to demand or have this bill to do what should be done normally. Is that unfair?
Well, I guess that I would not say that it is unfair. I just think that the need is great during this time with all of the wars and the times and the countless of times that women have gone into war. Again, our needs are different. We have kids, sometimes left alone with the kids. And I know that you can say plenty of women have kids, but once a woman have served in the military service and she come back home, she needs someone that she can relate to and talk to that look like her. A female coordinator, I think, would be the perfect thing. And I think that Georgia needs to come on board with the other states that are passing and getting a women's coordinator position across the 50 states, because they can see that it is much needed now than ever before. Even with the suicide rate, things are constantly happening that women need more attention than they're getting in the military.
And they couldn't get this through an administrative change within the VA?
Well, they
Without
can
the
get
bill?
it, but they are not getting it like they should be getting it. They are not getting it because they do not have that personal contact. And I'm sure that this position will provide the women with the necessary materials and the message from a woman's point of how they could go about helping themselves. I'm sure they have psychiatrists and all these things along the military, but it's nothing like a woman being able to go and speak with another woman.
There's no women psychiatrists or psychologists in the VA?
It's some, but what the coordinator would do, they would start reaching out to women. There's a lot of women do not even come to the VA, not even affiliated with it. So this position, it would try to narrow that gap to get women the service that they need. And that's also with the MST that is now real big in the military, the MST. That is another area that this position will focus on. It's the women with the sexual trauma, as well as this position also would treat men that have sexual trauma.
So it's not just the women's issue and the sexual trauma, it's both.
Well, right, because
But it's mostly
you do
women.
not. It's
I
the majority of
understand
women
that.
because you don't have too many men that want to say that they've been traumatized sexually. but you know, but you have the women.
But I guess I don't see the need for the separate. I think we need to be more inclusive as one, treating all veterans the same, knowing that there's difference. Not all men veterans have the same issues. So there's a lot of different ranges within the veteran services to accommodate that. But to pick one gender seems to be divisive, not inclusive.
Well, I would say that 99% of the things that we have always have been for men in the military. Very little have been for women. Everything have been geared toward men, not for women. So this will help bring the women to the forefront because women do have different needs.
I don't.
Well, okay, thank you.
No, I don't think that the women don't have needs, believe me. I don't think that the men don't have needs either. And it's a combination of what is best for all. And I think if we need to push on the women's side, historically, we have John Yates here, and how many women were involved in the military on the front line during that time? Not many at all. Even my growing up in the military has been in the midst of the draft, which women were not included in. So, the fact that we have less women represented still is in the military is lopsided, I'm assuming. So they have needs, but I don't know that we should put special account to the woman's needs over the man's need. And so I think they're both equal. But I don't see the advantage of having this bill to accomplish that. But thank you for presenting it.
Okay.
Thank you, Representative Scott. Definitely, first off, thank you so much for bringing this. Having a passion for helping out the military. But I kind of have the same question. I think we have a lot of great things right now going on, services to help everybody, men and women. And I definitely want to. I do think we can, maybe bring more awareness that more women are serving on the front lines, serving in the military than ever before. But I think doing this, it kind of breaks the unity that we have as a family of one, and I think separating it as we're, I think doing a separate service can make putting women over here, men over here, when I think we all serve as one big family. And it just feels like we're adding something that I just don't see that we exactly need right now to add something else that more put separation instead of bringing us together. And I think, we're doing good now. I'm not saying we can't put some more awareness to different situations, say, training for stuff, say, you said with the women, sexually and all that stuff that has happened, or something that's happened in the military that they're coming forward with, that, I think we have brought awareness to that big time in the last few years, and a lot of stuff has been done to help correct that and fixing it. But I just don't think we need to add this so fast. I'm thinking it's kind of moving too fast to add something extra, and I don't think it's really fixing the problem.
Okay, well, I would say that it's adding it too fast because we're already behind the power curve on other states that are adding it. So I won't say that it is adding it too fast because right now 28 states have already added it within the last 2 years. So it's not like we are adding it too fast. I would say that we are behind the power curve. But I would like to thank you.
Well, you answered one of my questions. You said 28 states. Now, do these 28 states specifically state that we're talking about a female individual?
Yes.
Okay. Well, maybe a little off, but Mr. Chairman, I hope Mr. Roby will testify before we start a motion. Okay, sir. Because we had an offline chat. I have two daughters that are Marine captains. One is now She served her 4 years. She's out. The other one actually she's still in the active reserve. She was actually a combat convoy commander in Afghanistan. Her convoys were attacked 10 times. The last one blew her vehicle to smithereens. I would love to have been able to talk to her before this hearing, and I am going to talk to her, see what she thinks. But I am very concerned that we're talking about making a completely separate female, everything female. We would have to codify this rather than it seems like it would be available already. But that's why, Mr. Roby, I was hoping to talk.
They will be able to speak to that.
I would like to hear from the Veterans Affairs people. I'm sure you're the experts on this sort of thing because you run into the cases as they go along, whereas the rest of us don't have that opportunity. So would one of y'all, both of you, want to? I'm with Mr. Dan Holt, Mr. Chairman. All right, thank you. Assistant Commissioner Dan Holt, long-time member of the military and this department, and is well equipped to help us out here, I think.
Well, I'm going to try. First of all, I'd just like to say I'm honored to be up here and speak on behalf of this piece of legislation with all these lovely women who are here this morning, or this evening, or whenever it is, afternoon. It's getting late. We have been looking at this issue as a department now for about the last 3 years. What we're seeing, and some statistics that I was given just before we came over here, in the last 3 years, the number of female veterans in the state of Georgia has gone from 88,753 to 93,251. That's of a total veteran population in the state that's running right now at 752,000 veterans. What we're seeing is a lot of what Representative Scott has talked about. There are a lot of female veterans who are out there who are reluctant, or simply because of ignorance don't know that they're eligible for VA benefits just like their male counterparts. The focus of the Veterans Program Coordinator Initiative, among other things, is to bring that information, we're back, bring that information out to the women veterans and make sure that they are aware of the fact that they have benefits that they can apply for, just like their male counterparts, to assist them in applying for those benefits. We have, I guess it was what, Deborah, 2 years ago that we put you in as additional duty? 3 years ago. We have our appeals division over at the VA regional office. And one of the positions over there has been designated to be working more with the women veterans issues, and that's Ms. Deborah Jones, who's with us today. What she is doing is providing the opening, that avenue, that assistance, not only for people who are filing appeals on VA claims that have been turned down because an adjudicator in the VA doesn't understand what those problems really are, and to help them better articulate those requirements so that they can make an appeal and get that appeal approved. But she's also been coordinating with our 52 field offices around the state to work with the female veterans to come up with initiatives to bring the information to them that they are eligible for VA benefits and that they can apply for them. The military percentage right now, I think, is somewhere in the neighborhood of 13 to 15% of the active duty military force is female. We're starting to see the same kinds of percentages in the veterans population, and we're seeing it, as you just heard me mention, in Georgia. We feel that this is an opportunity for us to do a better job of making contact with the women veterans and getting them the benefits that they're entitled to receive because they earned them. And so that's where our focus is. We're ready to take this on. As I said, we've been looking at this for about 3 years. We've been trying to figure out how to make this happen. And the initiative that Representative Scott has brought to the fore is certainly a vehicle to do that. What I'd like to do, if it's all right, Mr. Chairman, is ask Miss Amy Stevens, who is a women's advocate in private practice. She's got a bunch of letters behind her name. She's a retired Navy lieutenant, right? Yes. Who has been working with us for the last year and a half on this initiative. And I think she has a few words that she would like to bring before the committee, if it's all right.
Yes, fine. Let me make one point here for anybody that is not familiar with all of this. Is most of the money comes out of the federal government on helping veterans, but we have a great conduit right across the street from us here, and these gentlemen in the Veterans Affairs who are more or less our people to represent us to the federal government, because they are the experts. And so when I have a problem with veterans, and a veteran has called me and has a problem, then I just call up these folks and they get right into it and know what to do. And so for any of our members that haven't had a call from a veteran, that's the way we handle it. And I think we got a great thing set up for it, because I believe strongly in doing everything we can for any veteran that has a problem. And so I just wanted to explain that for those that have not had the opportunity to be on this committee long enough to have to make calls across the street and help people. So I appreciate very much you telling us all of that. Okay. And see, we got another question or two here.
Thank you, sir. You mentioned these duties that I guess that they're doing now for female, reaching out. Who's doing it for the males?
Everybody else.
Okay, so everybody else does not do it. Basically, they're leaving out the females.
Well, no, they're not leaving them out. No, sir.
And the reason I'm just trying to make sure, because a couple of us have retired from the military, and then there's a process when you get out of the military that you go through ACAP and I don't know what they call it now, and things like that.
Transition assistance.
Okay. And then the Veterans Affairs office is there, and they're not just, from my perspective, maybe because I'm a male, but I don't see them discriminating against who they serve. And from what I'm hearing what I'm asking here now, basically the things that you said that she's doing in her job is just focusing on females. And my question is, who's focusing on the males?
In essence, everybody else. Because she's also working with males, okay? And some of the other appeals officers over there are also working with females.
Exactly.
But if a female is coming in over at our appeals division, particularly with military sexual trauma issues, we are referring those individuals to Ms. Jones because she's a resident expert at this point in time.
Or is it because she's a female?
And because she's a female.
Okay,
both.
Not because she's the expert.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't have any male experts is what I'm saying.
Not that's working that particular issue. Is that right, George? Right. Yeah.
So you're referring them to her because she's the expert, not because she's a female.
Both. And the reason, and
okay,
this is the issue that
I'm just trying to make sure I understand, guys.
Okay.
And I heard what you said.
Okay. This is the issue that Representative Scott was addressing, is that there are a lot of female veterans out there who are unwilling to bring their issues forward and deal with a male counselor, a male appeals officer, whatever you want to call the individual, to address those issues and get resolution on them. They don't want to talk about it to a member of the opposite sex, but they're willing to talk about it to a fellow female.
And again, I very much appreciate my seatmate bringing this bill, and I'm going to support the bill. and I'm from a veteran family, and my wife's family are Gold Star family, and the problem I have, I come along real good, but to say, when we say that women are not cognizant, I'm only cognizant of the fact that they have benefits, I have a problem, because I think they have served and been through everything the men have been through, so they should be cognizant of the fact that they have military benefits. I have a problem when we say they don't know that they've got them. But I fully understand what you're saying and what my fellow representative is saying. Women don't want to go talk about their problems to me. They would rather go talk to a lady, and for that reason, I'm very supportive of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You outranked me in the military, and I'm not calling you sir because where you are now, because where you were then, without a doubt. But I think for my colleagues, for the benefit of my colleagues as well, maybe you can kind of expound on this. I've heard equality thrown out a couple of times, and this is not about equality. This is about equity. Mm-hmm. Could you kind of expound on the value of equity? We're not talking about sameness. We're just simply talking about bringing us up to where we are, where we can actually address these issues with women, equity as opposed to equality.
One of the things that we've got to keep in mind when it comes to any VA benefit, whether it's federal or, for that matter, a veteran's benefit that's for the state, all benefits have to be applied for. The individual has to know about the benefit and apply for the benefit. And unfortunately, and we see this in both males and females, a lot of veteran males do not realize that they have earned VA benefits or that they're entitled to certain things. Some of them will get out of the service, even the ones who have gone through the transition assistance program in the last 10 years. They go through it, no, I'm feeling fine, everything's okay, and they get out. And suddenly, 10, 15 years later, they start having a pain in their side or in their knee or wherever. And go see the doctor, and they find out they've got an issue. And then what are they going to do about it? Because maybe this had something to do with my military service. So we try to reach out. That's one of the main charters that the Georgia Department of Veterans Service has, is to reach out to the veterans of Georgia to make sure that they are aware that they have VA benefits and that we are there to assist them to obtain those benefits. And so the effort here is the same. It's the same effort going down the same road. It's just that we're trying to bring the power of one female talking to another female into the mix, just like the power of a male talking to a male. So that if a female is reluctant to talk to a male about her veterans benefits because of whether it's military sexual trauma or OBGYN problems or, whatever the reluctance is, that there's a woman she can talk to. There's a woman who can help her through the process and start that application process. And that's the bottom line for us, is to make sure that the benefits that the veterans of Georgia have earned are going to be made available to them and that they're going to be able to be maximized.
Is this creating a new position? And if it is it going to be additional cost? Is that you're going to hire a completely brand new person?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're actually talking about adding to the staff.
Yes, sir.
I bet most female doctors in the United States today are male. Females are talking to males. I see where you're going, and I'm going to probably end up supporting this as well. But it really bothers me that we're trying to create a divisive. I don't have any problem, if we need extra people, then I say, I will support hiring extra people. But codifying a definitiveness here, it does bother me a little bit. that we would need to do that. I would think that if the commissioner feels like that we need additional people to be hired to serve our female veterans, then we should, I'll vote for that in a second. I'll make the motion for it.
As a clarification, when we submitted our budget request last September, we submitted a request for a women veterans program coordinator position. That request was not included in the FY17 budget.
Sir, I have called your office many times, and between the two of you, I have gotten outstanding information, help, support for the veterans. So I'm coming from this from a different perspective from my earlier comments, which I don't disagree with, but you're saying the woman support that you have now in your office is not adequate?
No, actually, to a certain extent, that's correct. Yes. Right now, the only person who is dedicated to focusing on the female issue, to focus on that issue, is our part-time person that we have over at our appeals division.
Mm-hmm.
And what this position would do would be to bring into our central office a full-time position to not only provide guidance and assistance to our part-time person over at the appeals division, but also to reach out across the state and to deal with our field offices and to conduct programs in the field, whether it's in Savannah or Waycross or wherever it may be, to bring the women into the picture, that we've got an event that is going to focus on women's concerns, and they're out there. We've had a number of events the last couple of years here in Atlanta and also down in Warner Robins, wasn't it, Deborah? Yeah. And they were well attended. We had about 300 people at each of those events because they hadn't really been aware that there was something that might be available to them, that there was some assistance that we could bring to help them transition more from their military experience into their civilian roles.
And that doesn't necessarily have to be a female, that part.
It helps if it's a female.
It helps, but it doesn't,
Yeah.
It's not a necessity.
Right.
as
I mean,
far
men can step into the role and work some of these issues. But again, when you get back to the nitty-gritty of what does a woman want to talk about to a man versus what is she willing to talk about to a woman, that's where.
Yeah, but you're saying the outreach, you can get an outreach to bring them in, wouldn't require male or female.
Right.
Then once they're
And if the person
then
comes
I can
in and says,
understand.
I want to talk to a woman,
There you go.
then
Yeah.
we've got somebody that we can refer her to that's in our system. Because one of the problems that we have found, and getting back to your point about transition assistance, one of the biggest headaches that we have as a state Veterans Affairs agency is the veterans who have gone through the transition assistance programs have applied for or put themselves into what's called the e-benefits program and didn't know what they were doing when they went in there. They were feeling fine, or maybe they had a pain in their foot, but it might have related to something else. And so they said, well, I got a pain in the foot. And the VA looks at that and says, well, pain in the foot is not a problem. And they don't recognize that they've actually got some kind of a disability. When we find out about it, and this happens more often than you could shake a stick at, we start looking at what that case is, and we start asking questions that they didn't realize they should be asking of themselves. So suddenly the benefits that they have earned and are entitled to receive because of what their medical problem is suddenly start to come to the fore. And so this is just another avenue to address those kinds of issues that are specific to females.
Okay, then, one last question, if I may, or comment. If the governor did not put it in his budget, why would he sign this if we passed it?
I can't answer that, you know.
But thank you.
Yeah.
It might help everybody to understand, tell the committee how many field offices you have scattered throughout the state.
Right now, we have, 50 field offices and 25 what we call satellite offices. The satellites are where we provide itinerant service on a part-time basis, and they're all the way from Dalton in the northwest down to St. Mary's in the southeast and everywhere in between.
So I think it makes it available. You can drive there and take care of your business and get back home the
Yes,
same
sir.
day without any problem. I just want to emphasize that.
We have two in our district, in my district,
Yeah.
with satellite.
Mm-hmm.
Very effective.
And to that point, based on what I'm reading here, is asking for one position. Is that correct?
That's what we would staff it with at this point in time, yes, sir.
Now, right. Now, based on what I've heard from you and this person, or the need, I mean, talking about the person or the position, the need being at 50 different sites, women all across the state.
Mm-hmm.
I would venture to say that you probably need more than this one person if you're going to do this right, like you say you are. If the women are out there, are we talking 25 or, as you said, or 50 positions, or one? How can this, I guess my question is, how can this one person reach out across,
This
be
one
that
person
advocate?
is going to be able to address resources that can be brought to bear through our field offices. We've got women in our field offices, not all of them, but some of them. And what we want to do with this position, if it goes through, is to use this position as, among other things, a training vehicle for the female field service officers who are out there in our field offices, so that they can do a better job of working with these veterans also. So it becomes an education process.
Okay, but again, based on what you said, what you think this mission, what I hear that the tasks are and the mission from this, I would venture to say you probably need more than just one person if you're going to do this.
We're going to have to
But-
figure
so
that
you may
out.
Be
Yes, sir.
prepared to come back and actually.
I think, I know in some of the research that we've done, California, I think, has got about 8 or 10 people that are working female veterans issues out there. Texas, I know, has at least 3, and they're divided. Yeah, 3. But they do a lot of traveling, and we anticipate this position, if it's created, this person's going to be on the road a lot.
Question, I'm just not seeing exactly why, even more now, why we need this position. As in, we could add, if we need a woman to go travel around and educating some people, then maybe we need to add somebody. But it sounds like we already have women working alongside the men, helping out. If somebody does need to talk to a woman, they can. I'm just not seeing, creating this program that separates the unity, and I'm just not seeing why we need this. If we need to add another person, I understand that, to helping out the women. But just creating this exactly just seems like it's just separating the unity, and I'm just not seeing why we need this. If we need to add somebody, I'm fine with that. I'm just not seeing why exactly.
I guess the concern that I have is, and I'm hearing this not just from you, sir, but from several of you, that there's a perception that we're trying to separate, and we're not. What we're trying to do is to focus on a need that we are aware is out there, and to use obtain a resource that will serve that need the best possible way. And based on the research that we have become aware of, which Dr. Stevens can talk about a little bit more than I can, it seems to work better when you've got a woman talking with a woman. And that's the thing that we think is this opportunity, this program is going to bring to the fore.
I thought you said that there is a woman that y'all using. So
Yes.
if a woman needs to talk to someone about sexual trauma or something, that she can. But this sounds like it's just somebody who's traveling around just talking about what programs are available. And I think a man or a woman could talk about that. And then if they come in, then it sounds like you'll have a woman for them to talk to. So it sounds like
Well, her focus is on women who have appeals that are pending before the VA that are related to female issues and military sexual trauma. And that's kind of her focus. This position, as we view it, would be one step higher and broader scope.
but then we could just add someone else. You could hire somebody, but not have to create this, and she could be out there promoting the information and all that to the state, right?
That's true. But the emphasis would not be quite as obvious. But yes, you're correct.
Stan, you got a request in this year's budget for,
We put a request in, but it was not included in the recommended budget.
so you don't have one coming then?
No, sir.
And you don't have any alternate plan on that then?
Right now, when this piece of legislation was brought to our attention, we kind of looked at it and said, well, this may be an opportunity for us to get what we had asked for in the budget if this legislation is passed.
Is there any way you could train somebody for that?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, but we've got to have the position too.
Yeah, I understand.
Mr. Chairman, wouldn't we need a fiscal note on this? We're talking about approving hiring an additional
Well,
person.
it's not our position to do that. I mean, it'd be, that we're not.
It's just if it's
Are we asking the governor to approve a position here, which would be, I thought.
That'll go through the budget process. It'll be part of the budget process.
It's just if it's a significant fiscal impact. So one position, I don't think would be significant.
One position, I mean, that's what, $80,000 a year, benefits and
The,
everything? I don't
the
know.
proposal, the request that we put forth to open up the office, handle salaries, benefits, and all of the administrative costs that would be associated was $132,650.
That'll be handled through them. They ask for the budget. It's not our job to ask for budget.
It's almost like, Mr. Chairman,
It's his budget. It's not our budget.
I apologize, okay. It seems like we're almost trying to circumvent the governor. I agree with everything that's been said.
Well, there's several of us on appropriation committee, and we certainly would get a chance to be involved when he asks for the budget. Yeah, it wouldn't be for this committee to do. Yeah. It's a budget process, which
Okay.
it'll come through his department, and it'll go to our appropriation committee.
I'm on the budget committee that oversees the Department of Defense, and when I leave here today, we're meeting from 4 to 5 to finalize what's going to transpire. But it's my understanding, with all the positions that you probably have vacant positions that you could utilize that funding to fund this position if the governor was to approve it. And I'll just say, I may be an anomaly. My active service was almost 50 years ago, and women in the military were very different in the Vietnam era. I never saw a woman in Vietnam except at Da Nang East Hospital, where they were serving as nurses. But there's a substantive portion of the military service today, and they engage in a lot of activities that were never thought of in my generation. And I may be an anomaly, but I'm in support of this. I think it's a good idea, and I believe women ought to be dealing with women and issues of sexual nature, particularly when the woman feels that's a necessity. And I just think it's a positive step forward.
Well, I think that takes care of it. Except we have a gentleman down there who wants to make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on this is 12% of our fighting force, and based on the fact that our department wants this, I make a motion we do pass.
It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor of this? Is any other discussion of it? You never heard from who? From who?
The lady from the lady down there. The one that's doing the part-time.
Was somebody else wanting to speak? Huh?
Yes.
Our lawyer's not here. Yeah, there he is. There he is. What's our position? Do I stop and let her speak? All right, well, it's my discretion, then I'd say let the lady speak before we vote.
We didn't want you all to leave without getting a chance to meet some fine women veterans, right? Okay.
Y'all ready to sign up for another tour of duty?
Yes, sir, if you ask me,
Well,
definitely, sir.
during the House proceedings over there, I swore in a young lady to go into the service.
Well, and thank you all
I felt guilty.
Thank you all, gentlemen, for your service, and thank you for giving me a chance to speak. I'm Dr. Amy Stevens. I am a Navy veteran. I served during the Cold War, so I did not deploy to combat. But I was on active duty for 11 years and was medically discharged myself. Since that time, one of my claims to fame is that I was the Director of Psychological Health for the Georgia National Guard from 2009 to 2012. So I'm very attuned to the women that are the young women, the ones that are coming in to our veteran programs now. You know, as several of you have said, you didn't see too many women back in your day, and that maybe many of them were nurses. And my good friend Donna here is an Army nurse, so you can all say thank you to her for her service in a moment. But what I have seen is I have learned everybody's secrets, because during OIF, OEF, as most of you know, the 48th Brigade deployed repeatedly. What I found is that the women were coming to me and telling me stuff that they would never tell a man. That's what the bottom line was. And that I was a resource to connect them up with numerous benefits and resources. The military is a male-oriented society. We have to admit that. It's been that forever. Is that even this body here is all gentlemen. There is no woman sitting among you. And there is no woman sitting on the Veteran Services Advisory Committee. And I would like to see perhaps a motion passed to place at least one woman speaking out on behalf of women, because there are differences. It's the body of a woman that is different, but there's also many other emotional things. I'm not going to take the time to go into that. I sent all of you gentlemen some research from the Easter Seals organization and also from the VA benefits administration also. And I can tell you that also DAV, VFW, American Legion, all of the major VSOs have done studies on this same topic, addressing that now is the time to assist women veterans to recognize their service and to ensure that they get everything that they're entitled to. I appreciate Commissioner Roby and Dan Holtz for working with me for this. I do represent a large group of women that are calling me all the time. I don't work full-time. I'm semi-retired. I do mostly pro bono work. I want to be able to pass it over to somebody who's getting paid, because I'm talking to somebody every day. There's homelessness. I'm going to the VA with people that are having emotional breakdowns. There's all kinds of things. And so often people said, I didn't know that something like this was available. And if you want to indulge for just a moment, I'd like to introduce Donna Robinson and let her speak for herself and her organization.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and others on the committee to allow me a few minutes to speak. I am Donna Newman Robinson. I am a proud Army veteran, a retired Army Nurse Corps officer, an active member of a National Women Veterans Organization nonprofit, as well as a service disabled veteran. And I'm here because women vets matter. I also have a business that supports women veterans through their transition from the military, and it's actually called Life After Military Alliance. And the research that I conducted prior to creating this business was reaching out to find out what the needs were for women veterans. And a lot of that was discussed here today already. So it was confirmed for me. A lot of women veterans just don't self-identify. We just don't think we're veterans because we didn't go to war. or we, just other reasons that really don't make sense. But in their mind, they did not feel that they were veterans. So if they don't feel that way, how are they going to know what's out there for them? And speaking to the point of the gentleman who left about transition services for active duty military when they're leaving, a lot of that is antiquated now. With all the different conflicts that we've had, there's been such a quickly turnover, where they weren't able to get connected to the transition resources to be made aware of their benefits when they get out. So that's something I feel very passionate about, and I do agree and stand in agreement with this bill, because there should be a woman veteran in the same room at the same table with others who are making decisions about our benefits, about our challenges, and about our issues. And I thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
First of all, I want to say, Mr. Chairman, thank you for this time to speak. My name is Deborah Jones, and I am the Acting Women's Veterans Coordinator for the Georgia Department of Veterans Services. I'm also the president for the National Association for Women's Veterans Coordinator, which I have 50 states under me who already have women veterans coordinators. It is mandated that there is 3 women coordinators in each state. One is at the regional office of the VA benefits. The second one is at the VAMC, or the medical hospital, and also at the state level. What we do is, it's not only I deal with the military sexual traumas, claims, and appeals. If I have a veteran that calls me and say, Ms. Jones, I need someplace to live, then I take it upon myself, and that is my responsibility, to make sure that that woman veteran gets someplace to stay. It's not only just dealing with the claims and appeals, it's taking care of veterans, taking care of the people that have served. I was shy of 4 days from serving 25 years. I am proud of my service. I am a female. I wanted someone to help me when I was discharged. I didn't have anybody. We talk about the TAPs, or the outsourcing, or the briefings that veterans or soldiers are supposed to get when they are discharged from the military. A lot of those briefings are inadequate. Veterans are not always aware of what they can and what's out there for them. And what I'm asking is that if you all will pass this legislation so we can take care of veterans. It's not separating women from men. It's just that women, even men, especially with the sexual traumas, men feel are more comfortable talking to a woman because of them being embarrassed to go to a man and tell them, I was sexually assaulted, or I was beaten, or when I was in combat, I was on night patrol and I was gang raped. It's hard for a male to sit up in front of another male and tell them that. It's hard for a female to deal with going into a clinic where there's men sitting around, especially if they're suffering from sexual assault. If a woman comes to, or a man comes to my office and breaks down, I do not send them to the hospital. I personally get up from my desk and walk and take them. It's not only behind the 4 walls at the regional office, it's out in the counties. We have veterans that are sleeping out in the woods with children. That is what I live for, is to take care of female veterans and veterans. And I want to thank you for allowing me this time.
I thank you very much for your testimony. And I don't know of anybody that feels closer to helping veterans, and I think people associated with me will attest to that. And I appreciate this lady coming and telling us story today, and I think we've all learned a lot from this. And I say this, that when I was at Ford Motor Company, I couldn't have made my depot #1 without women. And you know, I think they are certainly at least equal to men and what they contribute to all the causes that I have anything to do with. And I appreciate all the testimony we've had. Is anybody else, did you want to say anything?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank you and committee members for allowing us to be here today, sir. We certainly take a lot of pride. As you all know, the late Commissioner Weaver passed away, 66 years as a commissioner of the state of Georgia. And it's an honor for me to be selected to replace him and to have Dan Holtz as my assistant commissioner and also George Canavaggio. George replaced me as assistant commissioner for field operations and claims and appeals.
I'm glad you introduced him because I've been calling on you all the time, and now he's the new man.
Yes, sir. That's cool. And we also have Mr. Mark Bannister, retired senior
Yes, good to see you.
Mark just replaced Rick Graham. He's our director of operations.
Well, I always pride the close relationship we've had with you folks. Of course, it's my job as the chairman of the committee. I consider it #1, even over appropriations.
Appreciate all y'all's support and what you do for us.
Anything else you had?
No, I would just like to say thank you all for this opportunity, and I ask that you do pass this bill, House Bill 913. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming. And anybody else got anything to say? You got a motion?